All right, here it is. Take a good look and get down in the comments and roast me till I am charred. This is my tier list of the banned cards in Commander and the likelihood I think that they could get unbanned. I've got some justifications for some of these. There are some pretty spicy picks and that could maybe be unbanned. Let's talk about what's going to happen on April 22nd and what cards we might see get unbanned. Joel R. Magic is brought to you by Card Conduit, the best place to sell your cards quickly and easily. TCG Player, the best place to buy them. Let multiple stores compete over your purchase. Dragon Shield, the best sleeves that you can use on your cards. And Moxfield, the best website for putting your deck lists on the internet. April 22nd is a big day. I'm going to be live here on the channel that day, so make sure you're subscribed. The Commander format panel, WotC's official oversight of the Commander format, is going to take its first action, we think. We are hoping, we have been told, that there are going to be unbans on that day. There's not going to be any more new bans on that day, but they have promised unbans. The big focus, I think, is going to be the bracket system and the game changer list. I actually think that game changer list is the most important part that I'm really interested in. I want to know what the unbans are going to be, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video. But that game changer list, I think, not only needs review of what cards are and are not on it, but also how it's used and how it's implemented. I think they could get a little creative with that. This day is going to be really important. I truly believe that it's going to set, in some sort of permanent fashion, Commander's identity for the next few years until there's another big shakeup, if there ever is one. The Commander format panel is about to tell us, about to show us their vision for the future of EDH, and that's how it's going to be for a while. So it's a very pivotal moment, and I think we should be paying attention. You saw my tier list at the beginning. I want to go from bottom to top. We're going to talk about probably safe to unban, then the could maybe be unbans, then the probably better they stay bans, and we're not really going to talk about the needs to be banned. I think that most everything in that list at the top, everyone is aware of why it needs to be banned. I think probably the most controversial card on that list is Docside. Docside is a card I think should stay banned. I think it's too powerful. I think that the entire game warps around it when it is played. And I think that the imbalance that it creates at every lower tier than the absolute highest is too much to get past for most pods. And so I do think that that card is format warping enough that it belongs in the same category as everything else in that list up there. Coalition Victory is the first card. This card has been repeatedly teased by Gavin. Gavin talks about this card a lot, sort of uses it as an example. I think that the likelihood of this one getting unbanned is very high. I think this is going to be sort of like, oh look, the Commander format panel gave us a treat. Coalition Victory is unbanned. Hooray. It's very slow. It's very high cost, high requirement, sorcery speed. It's iconic and it's slow. That's pretty much the pros here. The cons is that it's basically a free win in like a really well optimized 5-color deck. Between Triomes and your Commander, if you've got that on the battlefield correctly, you play this and you win. However, I don't think anybody's really on board with that. Is horrible for the game and is going to ruin the format, and so I think it's likely Coalition Victory comes off the list. And then Jeweled Lotus. This card was created specifically for this format. Barely playable. I don't want to hear about the legacy, whatever. Barely playable, if not playable in any format besides Commander. I hate that it got banned when it did. I think that this could be a really good poster child for bracket specific legality, that we don't have this like game changer list maybe the way it's implemented now, but the game changer list is bracket specific up. I think that this could be a really good card to sort of spearhead that effort. The biggest piece of the conversation around Jeweled Lotus is the social aspect. If we unban Jeweled Lotus, Manacry Crypt, Docside, some people posit, then we're letting the people who were the most nasty when the cards originally got banned at the end of last year and sort of started this snowball, we're letting them win. We're rewarding bad behavior. I am hoping that there is a graceful way to handle that. I don't think that that should be taken into account for the health of the game itself. I also don't wish that on anyone or condone it whatsoever. I just think that we do have some responsibility to, if we are analyzing the game, let it be about the game and not let those external pressures affect things like this. But that's a really thin line to walk, and I'm sure that there's a ton of people that disagree with me on that. And so I'm eager to see how it's worded, how it's handled, because those three big ones, they could easily just ignore them and say, we're going to do it next cycle internally, right? But ignore it now so that the worst people don't win, but we can eventually get what is probably best for the format. Gameplay, I mean, is it a worse Dark Ritual? I feel like it is. I feel like it's going to help a lot of commanders. I think it's going to not help a lot of commanders. And for an iconic card that was designed straight into the format, I think that it should just be left legal, and that was really the biggest overstep, where I think that there are good arguments, obviously, for Docside and for Manacry Crypt as well. In the maybe could be unbanned category, I've got Braid's Cabal Minion. Now look, I don't want this legal as a commander, okay? This is my example of, I think we should have the banned as commander list so that we can have some cards legal in the 99, and this just isn't a good card to have in the command zone. I don't think that that's that difficult to parse. It's a ban list in two parts: banned in the 99, banned as commander. That seems pretty simple to me, not that difficult to teach to a new player, which I see as a lot of justification for why the ban list should be kept small. And to a degree, I agree, but I don't think that splitting it into two internal exclusive pieces is going to break anybody's brain. I think that Braid's Cabal Minion is a perfect example of that. Terrible, terrible commander. Don't play this as your commander. What is your build line here? This is horrible. The game isn't going to happen. But in the 99, I think it's completely fine and could be legal. Gifts Ungiven, everybody's pretty split on. There are people that say it leans more towards could be unbanned, more towards it should be banned. Obviously, it's a broken spell. I think that this would be a game changer potentially if we are going to introduce it, and thus, I think the game changer should be bracket gated, but that's a whole different video. With Gifts Ungiven, there's a lot of really powerful tutors that are already legal in the format. I get that this one is instant speed, but some instant speeds already exist anyway, and I feel like at the highest levels, this is just more tools for those players to play really powerfully, and we could unleash this one, bracket gate it, or game changer gate it, and go from there, and I think we'd be fine. Golo's Tireless Pilgrim was originally banned basically for like homogeneity, and it sort of fixes its own commander tax too. That's kind of an annoying piece of it. But this is another card that I would put on the banned as commander, but not in the 99 list, and so under that reasoning, I would take it off the ban list. That's a big reason I've got that one, Braids, and Raphaelos, which we'll talk about a little later, all in the could maybe be unbanned category, because I want to shift the rules around a little bit, and that's how I think that they could be unbanned, but under the current structure, they probably wouldn't work as unbans. Library of Alexandria is made mostly irrelevant by its price tag alone. Even if this one came off the ban list tomorrow, I'm never going to see one in the wild. I'm never going to play one, I'll be completely honest. It's not that it's super overpowered, it's just sort of an awkward card. I put it on the list because it's sort of a shrugger. I originally had it on probably better if it stays banned, but Juniper over in the Discord and Patreon made a good argument that it's just sort of like there. It's fine. It's a shrugger. It could help. It's rougher on turn one. It's mostly decent in card draw decks. It's not even the best choice, maybe. And so I was like, all right, I could see it slipping to it could probably be fine being unbanned, and throw the old heads a bone and say, hey, look, your Library of Alexandria is legal now. Enjoy. Lutri the Spell Chaser on my maybe list. What I want to do, ban Companion in Commander completely. That's what I want to do. I want to ban the Companion mechanic. Then there's no need for Lutri to be banned because the Companion mechanic is irrelevant. It's good in the 99, and the Otter is free. Manacry Crypt is very similar to Docside to me, but it can go in any deck and it's free. However, you'll see I've got it on my could maybe be unbanned list. I think that the three cards, Docside, Manacry Crypt, and Jeweled Lotus, died for the sins of each other. I think that one card being banned could send a signal that, hey, fast mana should probably be considered differently than it's considering now. But we've got the brackets coming in and the game changers now, and so that conversation might be completely moot. Maybe we only need to ban a specifically problematic card, Docside Extortionist, that has a lot of ways to be broken, reanimated, blinked, that Manacry Crypt doesn't necessarily have. Manacry Crypt is really good fast mana for the highest levels. Playgroup it out if you don't want to see it, would be my advice. And so if we're going to look at those three, I would say leave Dockside, unban Jeweled Lotus. Manacry Crypt falls somewhere in the middle for me. I don't think it's as big a problem as Dockside by any means, but I also see the need to sort of curb the amount of fast mana that could exist. I would take it off the list and let the format police itself. Let the game changers and the brackets do their job and let this card free. Panoptic Mirror is a card that a lot of people are talking about as probably an obvious shoe-in for an unbanned. I don't know. I don't want anybody to put an extra turn spell on this and just absolutely go to town, but it's clunky and chunky at this point. I feel like this is like a combo win at the highest level. This could be just another tool for those really high power level decks, high bracket decks, whatever you want to call it, whatever it's going to be called. Panoptic Mirror in 2025, I don't think is the threat that it was, and could be a nice oppressive tool for those kind of decks to get to and then win with. My Rofellos ban is completely based around banned as commander, banned in the 99. Rofellos should be banned as a commander. And so if we're going to leave the commander ban list like it is right now, it shouldn't come off the list. I don't think there's a really good argument for it to come off the list. I actually feel the same way about Braids. I don't 100% feel the same way about Golos. And look, I'm a known Golos hater, okay? I was so happy when Golos retired. But with Rofellos in the 99, come on. This is an unbannable card. As a commander, busted as all hell. But with mana engines as they are today, Kennen, Selvala, Nyx Bloom Ancient, you've got insane things that are able to really take the mana over the top. Rofellos, I don't think, is the threat or the same power level that it once was. And so you could either have him banned as commander, or in the everything gets its own brackets. The brackets are defined by specific cards. Maybe that would be a good way to take this one as well. Banned in everything but, 4 and 5 kind of thing. And then Tallarian Academy. This is the one I'm probably going to catch the most hell for. I've got recency bias on this. I just got bent over by a Gaia's Cradle last weekend, and when Pastry Time was activating it for 20 mana for the 4th time, when I went to look at Tallarian Academy today, it didn't seem that bad, okay? It's obviously a game ender. I think that, there's a lot of ways to get artifacts onto the battlefield, just like there are creatures or creature tokens with Gaia's Cradle. But with Tallarian Academy, there are far fewer answers to artifacts overall. But I just saw them reprint Vandal Blast in that Deadpool layer, and it's got Fire Fart art, so I know that even the edgiest lords have seen that Vandal Blast exists. Okay, Vandal Blast exists. You can run that in red decks. Vandal Blast is a legal card. However, people are going to be like, cool, you want to unban Tallarian Academy because Vandal Blast exists. Really great reasoning. Like I said, I've got recency bias on this one. I feel like it's very similar to Gaia's Cradle, with maybe a little bit more difficulty turning it off than you could turn off your opponent's Cradle, but let's have some high power fun. Let's lock it into bracket 5. Come on. Moving into the probably better that they stay banned category, Biorhythm. This is one that a lot of people are talking about as well. It's dumb. It's easy. It's not that broken. This could be unbanned. I'm more in camp. Let's just don't. I don't particularly want to lose to a Biorhythm hitting the field while I don't have a creature on the battlefield. I typically have creatures on the battlefield. I'm a known turn things sideways enjoyer, but Biorhythm seems a little cheap, seems a little unearned to me, and I just think that casual pods particularly would be negatively affected by this, and at the highest level pods, I don't know that people really are like, I want to get that Biorhythm deck going, unban it, baby, so I can win with creatures. I don't think that's happening too much in CEDH, and so I would leave it banned. Emercle the Aeon's Torn, I feel the same way. It's just too over the top. It's an insane one. If it happens, if it gets onto the battlefield, the whole game is going to become about it. It's also just like ramp up and win the game. It's a big fat creature, so I think that there's a good argument for it to go either way. I just personally would lean it more towards let's leave it banned. It's a little ridiculous, and it's like, okay, sure, Emercle, there's another Emercle, we got it. But I feel the same way about cards like Craterhoof, and those aren't even on the radar of potential bans. And so sometimes in Magic, there are just cards you lose to. I personally would just leave Emercle banned. You know, that middle band, that's why we're discussing the middle band in the first place. I think that probably better they stay banned and could maybe be unbanned. A lot of these cards in here are interchangeable, I would say. But I think that as long as we are agreeing on that middle section, I think we're in a good place. Fast Bond, there's a pretty good argument, I think, for it to be a legal card at the highest level of play if you really want to go absolutely nuts. But with it being 1 mana, with it really pushing somebody out far, far, far ahead of everybody potentially, or comboing off and just getting absolutely nuts, I think Fast Bond leans more toward a ban for me. Flash, I feel the same way. I think that there's a world where you could ban potentially the cards that are worst around this, but when you start looking at that and you're getting up into the 5, 6, 10 cards that would be terrible if they're flashed out, and we could just ban flash instead, I think that that's the route we should go. This one allowed some absolutely insane over-the-top combo wins and sort of dictated the meta at the highest levels for a while, and so its banning, I think, gives more options to deck builders, even though, from what I've heard, CEDH is pretty homogenous right now. Ricky, I don't care what you say. We're not unbanning Paradox Engine. I do think there's maybe an argument that this could be in that middle rows. It's not a definite no. It's definitely not a definite yes. But Ricky is always the one going on about Paradox Engine, and I gotta be real with you, Ricky. 20-minute turns don't work for me. Can you win? Can we just concede? I'm not going to take your word for it because you've been wrong before, Ricky. Paradox Engine is the patterns and the play lines that it introduces to the game, just potentially soul-sucking. I think that this is a fine one to leave on the ban list. Oh, Prime Time. I love you. You're a pet card of mine. I've got my cool copies still in my notebook. Haven't gotten rid of them ever since they were banned in Commander, but I do think that it should stay banned. There's probably more powerful cards nowadays. We've probably power crept the entire format at this point up to a place where Primetime could be fine. However, there are... maybe this one's just stuck in my DNA. Maybe I just feel about Primeval Titan how I'm going to feel about Primeval Titan for the rest of my life. And I can never be convinced that this just won't be the most broken thing in the entire world. I've seen many times, as I'm sure y'all have, what can happen to a Commander game when one player gets double or triple the hard mana, remaining mana, not just like treasure tokens, but the hard remaining mana. When they get to double or triple everybody else on the board, they're automatically arch enemy. They're popping off every turn. Doesn't matter how much you answer, they're just going to continuously rebuild. Primetime creates situations like that, and with it being an enters or attacks trigger and going to get basically anything you need, I think Primetime should stay banned. Sorry. Prophet of Cruix for the exact same reasons. It's 1 mana less. The speed, the allowance that this card gives you to get ahead of everybody else in the most ridiculous way possible. Simic already does that to a ridiculous degree, but adding the F word to all of your creatures and giving the Seedborn Muse sort of all in one little package, it's ridiculous, and it should absolutely stay banned. This one is probably the one I feel strongest about. I probably should have just left in the banned category and not on the maybes at all. That's just where I'm at. The only argument I've really got for Sundering Titan is that it's clunky and expensive, right? The abuse of its ability is mass land destruction. That's a very big no-no in Commander, apparently. That's going to be one of the main rules, is none of this land destruction. Can't answer the green decks. I'm speaking as a green deck here. Sundering Titan, though, the abusability of that ability is just off the charts. This one would very easily take over games, I think, if the deck was built correctly. But if you just look at it as a clunky, I play this one time, maybe I cheated out because of an affinity sort of synergy, and you're just going to do the one thing one time. No, you're not. No, you're not. Sundering Titan's going to destroy everything, and it's going to kind of take over the game. Remember, all this is just to avoid the beginning of games of Commander with strangers to be a job interview where we've got to compare and contrast lists. We're just trying to get that conversation down as tight as we possibly can. Largely, this doesn't apply to play groups. I can't tell you how much non-conversation about this has happened in the play groups that I play in past the initial bannings being discussed. Maybe there'll be some stuff unbanned. It really doesn't affect us. If we want to play with something, typically, we just ask. And that's universally how the experience goes, I think. But we need to keep in context and keep in mind that this is to protect those groups of strangers playing Commander, not necessarily your own playgroup. So at the end of the day, do what you want. And I need you to give me your opinions. Get down in the comments. Let me know which of these I'm completely off on. I know I've got some recency bias. I've got some like old head bias in here. And I probably had contradicting reasons to keep a card versus get rid of a card. So let me know down in the comments. I'd love to talk to you about it. I was going off of feel. I was going from the soul with this one a lot. And I'll entertain any card you really want to see unbanned. But I swear, if you say Shahrazad, I'm calling the police.